This is Teresa from My Crochet Obsession, and today my miniature rose has bloomed. I took it as a sign. I want to show you how I crochet a large 3-dimensional rose. This rose measures about 3.5 inches wide and stands about 1 3/4 inches tall. Enough talk, let's crochet. I'll be using my worsted 4-weight yarn, and I'm going to use the color yellow, of course, for the yellow rose of Texas, which, by the way, really isn't a rose, it's a person. And it's a woman who did something very wonderful for us in our history. But that's another story. Today, to get started with this rose, I'm beginning with my 5.5 millimeter crochet hook and for my chains, and then when I come back and put my single crochets into that chain, I will be switching to my 5 millimeter crochet hook. Also, we will begin with a chain of 60, and I'm going to use my stitch markers to help me keep up with my count. Starting with a slip knot on your hook, yarn over and pull through a loop. That's one chain, yarn over, pull through a loop. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then I'm going to put in a stitch marker. Now, if you don't have these little plastic guys, you can use another piece of yarn, safety pins, bobby pins. I've seen all kinds of things used as stitch markers. All you're doing is counting your chain so that if you lose count, then you don't have to go back and start counting again. I'll join back up with you once I have my chain of 60. And I have my chain of 60. And I have my finger right there at my last one. I'm going to change my crochet hook to the next size smaller. I'm going to a 5 millimeter crochet hook now. And the reason I'm doing that is because as we go back and put in our single crochet for this foundation chain, the chains begin to tighten up. So by changing to a smaller crochet hook, I am able to minimize shrinkage. I'll also be single crocheting into the back bump of my chain. That also minimizes shrinkage and prevents the chain from twisting. I'm going to chain one more, and then I'm going to turn my chain and begin my first single crochet in that second back bump from the hook. Single crochet in each back bump for the entire chain, all the way back to the slip knot. Just like this. Insert the hook and pull up a loop and yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. Easy peasy. I'll join again when I'm all the way back to my slip knot. My foundation chain for my 3D rose is complete. Now I will begin to add chain spaces that I can come back into in the next row to add the petals. Let's begin. Chain 2, skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch. Now chain 1, skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch and do that 5 times. Chain 1, skip a stitch, slip stitch into the 3rd chain space, chain 1, skip a stitch, this is the 4th chain space, chain 1, skip a stitch and slip stitch into, that is 5 chain spaces. This is for our very middle beginning of our rose. Now chain 2, skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, and do that for a total of 10 times. Chain 2, skip a stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch. Now, many people, in fact, if those of you that are doing this that have made this before, many people use single crochet here whenever they join their chain spaces, and that creates a much larger rows, and I purposely am trying to create a smaller rows. Okay, chain 2, skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 2, skip, slip. All right, let's see how many of those we have now. 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 6 more. Chain 2, skip and slip. Chain 2, skip and slip. Chain 2, skip and slip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chain 2, skip and slip. Chain 2, skip and slip. Chain 2, skip and slip. All right, for the remainder of the rows all the way to the end, this is the part where we're going to have our very large outside stitches of our rows. So we're going to chain 2 again, and we're going to skip a stitch, and we're going to go into that next stitch and single crochet. That's going to give us a little bit more room for those stitches. So chain 2, skip and single crochet. 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 Chain 2, skip, single crochet. Chain 2, single crochet, all the way to the end. Okay, I ended up with an extra stitch. I know what I did. It was at my beginning chain, and if you did too, it's no big deal. Just in the last stitch, single crochet, even if you do have an extra stitch that you're skipping. Okay, perfect. Now chain 1, turn the work, and now we're all for the remainder of this row, we're going to be building the petals, and we will always be going into the chain spaces. In this first petal, we will be putting a total of 7 stitches. The first stitch is a single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet 3 times. And half double crochet, and single crochet. And yes, it is very crowded. Okay, let's repeat that sequence again. These are our large petals. Single crochet, half double crochet, 3 double crochet, half double crochet, and single crochet. And into the next chain space, single, half double, 3 double, half double, and a single. Now you notice with this many stitches in these chain spaces, it's causing the cord basically that we first built, it's causing it to curve. But that's what the flower is going to do. So this actually helps it to form the rose at the end. Okay? Now then, repeat that same stitch pattern. Single, half double, 3 double, half double again, and single. In the next chain space, repeat the stitch pattern for these large petals for a total of 10 petals. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 more just like this. Seven, 8. We've got 2 more. Actually, we have more than that. I miscounted. We have more large petals. You're going to make these large petals in all of the chain spaces where you had a single crochet to join the chain to the foundation chain. But after 10, we're going to only put 2 double crochets in the middle. We're going to make the petals not quite so big. We're going to gradually decrease. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there is 10. Now in the next stitch, it's the same stitch sequence, but reduce the double crochets to only 2 double crochets. So it's single crochet, half double crochet, and 2 double crochet. And half double and a single. So you're making a transition to the next medium size. So single crochet, half double, 2 double, half double, and then single. You have 2 more of those. Single crochet, half double crochet, two double crochet, half double crochet, and single crochet. And one more time. Single, half double, 2 double, half double, and single crochet. Okay. For the medium-sized stitches, insert the hook into the next chain space and slip stitch and single crochet, half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then back down to the half double, single, and a slip stitch. Let's look at the work. I want you to see the different sizes of the petals and how they're gradually getting smaller. So here's our first stitches, and then there's the beginning of the medium, and then here is the first actual medium, and then we're going to go smaller than this before it's all done. Okay, so the next stitch is a slip and then a single, and that first single is tricky because that single base doesn't hold down there too good, but you can do it. I have faith in you. Half double, 1 double, half double, and a single, and a slip stitch. and then not in my chain. If you want to skip that slip stitch, you can, but the thing that the slip stitch does is really give the definition to the petal. Another thing that it helps it do, it gives you that one more stitch that helps the curve of this piece. If you want to drop it off and not put it in there, you can certainly do that. Let me show you the difference though. We'll skip that slip stitch and just go to single crochet, half double crochet, and 1 double crochet, and 1 half double crochet, and 1 single crochet. Okay, you notice the difference? It changes the curvature because these are more pointed, and it changes the curvature and makes it more rounded. Now, there are roses that the petals are more rounded and less pointed like this. And in fact, if you want to change even right here and do this, that'll be fine because it is in nature. I'm just going to go ahead and add my 1 slip stitch in this one and then go to the next. In fact, that's an idea too. You could just put 1 slip stitch in one end and a single crochet in the next. Let's do that one and see what it looks like. Next. So there's a lot of variables. The idea is that the petals are different sizes as they go back to the very beginning. Let's see, this is my double crochet. Half double again, single. Okay, that kind of accents again. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm going to put my slip stitch into the next stitch. Continue with my single crochet. No, wait, the slip stitch goes in this stitch. Sorry, I'm totally confusing you probably. Those of you that have made roses before, you may just notice that there's lots of ways to do it. But those of you that are learning for the first time, I hate to do all these, you can do this, you can do that, you can blah, blah, blah. For newcomers, it's better if you just say, do this the first time. And then after they get their feet on the ground, then they can begin to experiment. But I've said this before, I fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm just making this and having thoughts and just throwing them out there to you. Single and a slip stitch in this. And then in the next one, I just go over and start my double crochet. My single crochet. Excuse me. Single, half double, double, half double, single, and slip stitch. Single, half double, double, half double, single, and slip stitch. Single crochet, half double, double, half double, single, and slip stitch. Okay, we have one more. Of these medium size, and then we will be going to the tiny baby ones. Okay, now we're to our final petal stitches, the littlest ones. So after this last stitch, I'm doing a transitional one here. First of all, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. That's the petal for the smallest ones. Okay, into the next chain space. Now you're into the chain 1 space, so it's a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. Repeat the pattern again. Into that next chain space, insert the hook, and single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. Next chain space, and it's small, it's hard to find, but it's there. Single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. Cute little petals. All right, and into the next chain space. Repeat the same pattern. Single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. And into the next chain space. Let me see, that may be the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. It's a little bigger because it was the chain. The first one chain counted as the single crochet. So single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and single crochet, chain 1, and then single crochet. All right. Now then, into there is a chain right there at the bottom where you did the last single crochet. There is a stitch, go under that, and single crochet, and then into the original first chain, go in that, and single crochet again. Okay, and this completes our petals. Now from here you can chain 1 if you want, but you're going to pull up a really long, I pull up about 24 inches of yarn, and that gives you enough yarn to sew your rows together. This is going to be too much, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. And we begin our stitches from the center. Now notice how your little rose is twisting. Also notice there's a back side to the petals, and they're cupping in. So you want the cupping in to go in. That's the way we want to stitch it. and we're going to stitch it. It's going to be in a coil, like a snake. We're going to coil it, but we're going to stitch it as we coil it. So this is what is going to happen. For those of you who have never done a rose before, it's going to coil a little bit, more and more, and form a rose. Okay? So grab your yarn needle, and I find a metal one works better on this than the plastic ones. In all honesty, I just don't like the plastic ones, period. Somebody gave me some and I think I pitched them in the trash. But that's me. If you like them, keep them. All right. So I'm coming around. I'm ending off that last stitch by going back through again. And this first time, and we'll be stitching from the bottom. And this first stitch is important. It needs to be very, very tight. So he needs to be just rounded up. So bring him in, go back through that original chain one, and just go back through just like that and make it tight. You can go back through again into the foundation chain, and we'll do that a few times to begin with, just to keep it tight. And then let's do another loop, and you take your yarn needle and you go over a stitch or two. You want it to be tight. You don't want it to be loose. But we also want it to be somewhat level. This will have a tendency, if you coil it like this, then it really, I mean, you can do it a little bit at the beginning, but if you continue to do it, then your rose is standing like 2 or 3 inches tall or more, 3 or 4 inches tall. And I don't want that myself. You may want that. All right. And to hold this coil, go ahead and go right back in here and go all the way through the rose. All the way through, like that. Now coil it around again, just like you did. Bring your needle and your yarn over. And go right back through the entire piece again and over to the other side. Okay? And coil again. And that's the way I continue to do it. And I like to keep mine relatively flat on the bottom, or it's very difficult to attach to things and get it to adhere well. It'll be like floppy, or at least mine was. So I like to keep it kind of flat. In a minute we can let it, the other petals flare a little bit, but right now let's try to keep it flat. So pull this up just a bit. You don't want it to sink down too much. Like I said, I like to keep it more flat than open for this first part. And into the next stitch and back around all the way through. Not too tight, just snug. And see how it's looking? Oh, I wish my tail hadn't been there. But isn't it beautiful? Now then, for these last rows, I'm going to begin to go back and forth on the outer rows rather than all the way through the rows. It's nice and secure now. So I'm going to go back and forth on these outer rows, just through the chains. I'm trying to get 2 loops on the rows as well as 2 loops on the outside petals that I'm adding. Okay? All right. All right. It's a little bit unstable, so I'm going to go back through again into the rows and come out. The petals are having a tendency, those that I'm trying to attach like that, they're having a tendency to want to spill out. So every once in a while you got to attach it to the big rows again. And again. Into the big rows. So you see, as much yarn as I'm using, that 24 inches seemed like a lot of yarn, but we're using it up quickly. And see how the base is remaining flat? That's what I find helps it to attach, and where you can attach the rows all the way around, and it's just easy to attach and doesn't make a big bump. Okay? And continue all the way around. I said this before in another video where we were joining. You might have a tendency to think, oh, I'm going to whip stitch. Okay, you can if you want to, but it creates a great deal of bulk, and crocheters generally think that and also whip stitching, you can gather it up, and we don't want to do that either. So crocheters generally think that going back and forth like this on when we attach things, whether you're doing this or you're joining squares, this is the recommended method, back and forth. So basically it doesn't matter if you're joining your rose petals or you're joining square motifs that you made in advance. This is considered the best join, the best way to stitch them together over the whip stitch. We're almost to the end of our petal. And pull this guy over there and hold him while you're stitching him in. The last petal, the last inch or so of the petals. Oh, I almost lost my yarn. See that, like I said, that 24 inches seemed like a lot of yarn, but we've almost used it all up. Now I'm going to go right into that corner and get that petal and grab it to bring it in. And now I'm going to push the center of my rose out, and I'm going to go all the way through to the other side, because we want to try and hold this yarn, this rose together. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to go back through my yarn, the actual yarn. I'm wrapping the needle around, and I'm going through the actual yarn in order to tie this off, and then I'm going to start weaving it in. But I'm going to jump over here to another section of the rose, and I'm going to do that same thing again. It's actually, I'm going through the actual fibers of that same ply of yarn in order to tie it off. Now I'm just going to work my yarn into the rest of my rose and slip it off. And that is a beautiful and tight rose. If it's not stitched correctly, trust me, I've had this happen. The top of the rose, this part will just come out. So you've got to do that how I stitched it in the beginning, all the way across. That is very necessary at first. And then add some petals, and then bring the yarn all the way through the rose one more time. Okay, and that is how I make a rose. Let's take a closer look. This is how it looks from the side. It's approximately 1 3/4 inches thick, and the petals cup towards the center, and the petals get larger as they go to the outside of the rose. The back is very flat, so it's easy to attach. It's approximately 3.5 inches wide, and it's nice and tight. And I like mine that way because they have a tendency to be very floppy. If you don't have a flat back, they'll stand up. And there would be an application for that. If you were making these rows and then going to put them on a florist wire to make an actual arrangement, then you may want yours to not be flat on the back. But for me, attaching it to maybe a neck warmer, or you could put a brooch pin on the back and pin it to a shawl or a scarf, or even to your t-shirt. This summer had a little flower on there, but I like the flat back for the things that I use it for. There is definitely a place for a rose that has a more of a cone shaped base. And there you have it, a 3-dimensional grandiflora rose. We're coming to the close of our time together today, and once again, I have had a blast demonstrating how I make this type of rose. Let me know if you would be making a large rose like this by hitting the like button. That's the best way to help me grow the channel. And it goes without saying, I'd love to have you as a subscriber with that notification bell activated so you'll know when I put up new tutorials. Be kind, and until I see you again, keep calm and crochet on.